Hi everyone. Okay, let me just sort my window open. How are you all? I don't know about you, but outside my window it is snowing. So I can just see it over the top there. There's little flakes coming down, you know, the very soft stuff. It took twice as long for Mark to get to work this morning as it does normally, so it's fun out on the roads there right now. As usual, let me know when you arrive. Say hi in the comments box so that I know that you're there, and then I don't feel like I'm just talking at a camera and being stupid. And hello, Dina. Sorry, Dina. One of these days I'll get that right. I'm so sorry. Anyway, hi Dina. Nice to see you here. You have a lot of trouble getting to these sessions, I know. Glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Just some housekeeping before we get going. Don't forget to subscribe to the live notifications so that you get advised when live. It's, if you look at the top of the comments section, it's the three little dots. If you click on that, there is a drop down option box, and one of them is to subscribe, and then in the future whenever I go live you'll be automatically informed. You'll get a text message, a notification in your Facebook inbox that will have a link to the video, so that helps enormously instead of having to wander around and look for it. So don't forget to subscribe to your notifications. Dina is doing much better, thanks. That's good. I'm glad to hear it, Dina. You do have some troubles, don't you? And she loves my hair down. Yes, I'm kind of free and easy today. So as usual, I will answer any questions, no problems. Just put them in comments. If you're feeling shy, you can always email me as well and ask the questions, and I'll answer them in a future live session. Again, if you've just come on, do say hello in the comments section so I know you're there. In the meantime, we'll get into some news here. So it's been a very interesting week. Short on sleep on occasions, but yesterday, for the first time in a long time, I got to spend the entire day not writing. Not doing anything to do with writing. I was actually making things, which I do when I do have a bit of spare time, and it was enormous fun. Mark is here. Hi. It was enormous fun, but now I've got a very sore neck and shoulders because I spent the entire day looking down, doing things. I can't show you. I wanted to show you what it was that I did, but I can't because it's a birthday gift, and so when that birthday is over and the person has received their gift, I'll be able to share it with you. And yes, Dina, in fact, I was not writing at all. It was very difficult, actually. There were times where I kept wanting to run back to my computer and make sure that everything was under control and nobody was out there lost or anything. But from the emails that I got this morning, it doesn't sound like too many people lost their way yesterday at all. So that was good because I had a great day. Okay, so yes, I can't show you what I made yesterday, and I will eventually in future sessions when I spend the Sunday making things, which is when I usually try to. I will share them. Some of them are fun. They're great stocking stuffers and things like that. So, and what else is there? Okay, Time in Remembrance is out on Sunday. I'm looking forward to that one. It's because of I wanted it to come out on November 11th. It's coming out on an odd day. Hi Mary, great to see you here. Yes, I do knit So Mary says, I'm making a knitted scarf for my niece's birthday. I knit a little bit too. I prefer to crochet, actually. I really like crocheting rather than knitting, although I have knitted. I will show you a cap I made for my son for last Christmas. It's not suitable for work, but I'll dig up that photo for you and show you. Yes, so if I have my choice when it comes to yarns, I would crochet rather than knit, but I can knit. I've been doing that since I was a little girl. When I was in primary school, elementary school for North Americans, when I was in primary school, everyone used to knit. It doesn't seem to be a thing anymore, although I believe knitting is starting to become trendy again, sort of like sewing and crochet. Hi, Ava. Ava said, try knitting continental. It's like crocheting with knitting needles. Okay, I will have to look that one up. So I presume you've still got the 2 needles. Is that the one where you're just using the one hand to use the yarn? Because I've seen that, and that looks like you need way too much coordination. But I'm pretty sure that's what you mean by continental. Yeah, I have seen people doing that one. It looks amazing. I've seen videos of people that can swap from just normal knitting to continental and back again, and it's kind of frightening how flexible they are. I'd get all tangled up. I'm not that good a knitter. Some basic decreasing and increasing is about my speed. I'm much better at crochet. Anyway, Time and Remembrance is out on Sunday. It's an odd day because I wanted it to come out on November 11th, so it's coming out on the Sunday instead of the Thursday, which is when I usually release books. But then the very next Thursday, we've got Kiss Across Tomorrow coming out as well. So this is my opportunity. I want to say huge, huge thank you to everyone who has put public feedback out there about the book or done reviews and haven't left spoilers. This is fantastic because I was terrified. If you've read the book, if you've read Kiss Across Tomorrow, you know why now. I was so scared that somebody would let the cat out of the bag, which would just kill the book if you knew that beforehand. Well, I don't know if it'd kill the book, but it would take some of the jaw-dropping scenes, like take all the power out of them if there's spoilers in there. And spoilers are something, actually, astonishingly, I have to, well, there's not much I can do about them, but there are spoilers creep into reviews, especially on Amazon, all the time. I'm quite sure readers don't realize that they're giving away like the major jaw drop for the entire book, but Amazon, who abide by the sort of Fifth Amendment, won't remove those reviews. So quite often there are reviews for my books that just give the whole thing away, which is just awful. But so far everyone who has done a review for Kiss Across Tomorrow has not let the cat out of the bag, which is great. So thank you. This is my official thank you for being smart and enthusiastic at the same time. So thank you for the review, and thank you for containing yourself, because I'm quite sure you're dying to tell everyone about it. But we just have to wait for release day, and then maybe we can like loosen the leash a little bit, but we're nearly there. We just have to hang in there. Oh yes, and oh my God, I can't remember what day it was last week. Oh, of course, duh. October 31st, Halloween. I gave away a copy of 3 Taps Then, which is the little Halloween short story that I have on my site. Amazing response. I had so many people knocking down the door to get their copy that the server crashed. The whole site went down. I suddenly had to organize an alternative. I'm quite sure you saw the emails go through. An alternative site to download the book instead of my site, while I hurried around with my host website host trying to figure out how to get the site back up again. So it was a little bit of drama, but it was actually really great. It was nice to see such a great response from everyone. I've got, I think there's about 12 new reviews there for the story. Everyone seems to have enjoyed it a lot, so that's great. That story is a bit old now. I might, in my infinite spare time, I might have to write a new Halloween story for next year. We'll see if we can squeeze that one in. So, and that's pretty much it for news right now. Don't forget, if you've got any questions at all, put them in comments. Let me just slide down here and see what we've got. Oh, Mary can't crochet anymore since she has carpal tunnel surgery. Oh my goodness, that's awful. If I couldn't use my hands, I'd be, oh, screwed. So I feel your pain, especially if you're doing that very fine work with the cream thread. I love that stuff. Nobody uses it anymore, but it's gorgeous. Some of it's so fine. The Irish crochet and stuff like that's great. And Meredith said, my kids are taught knitting at school. Even the boys get into it at lunchtime. I'm like, yes, it seems to be picking up in popularity again. It's like sewing. I do a lot of garment sewing, or I used to. Would like to do more of it. But for the longest time, I mean, I learned in high school, but for the longest time, it was like sewing didn't exist. Everyone just wanted to buy ready-made. Now suddenly there are sewing blog sites everywhere, and there's pattern companies, independent pattern companies, and all sorts of information out there. You could teach yourself to sew. No problems at all, just from the number of blogs and resources that are online now. And of course, because it's the digital age, now you can get sewing patterns that you can just download and print. So you don't have to have all that tissue paper and all that sort of stuff. You can just, well, you do have to sit there and like tape together sheets of paper that you print, but my goodness, that cuts down on the price. It's really for the modern age. It's great. Dina said, when I got to the end of Time and Remembrance, I looked for the next chapter. Loved it. Oops. Well, there is not a next chapter, Dina, but for everyone who has already read it, there was a setup in that story for a future storyline. I'm not going to say what, but it's not like, although Time and Remembrance seems like it's a story out of time, out of the series, it's not really related in any way. It actually is. It'll get worked back in. I kind of like dropped the threads in there so I can pick them up later. And Dina, again, it was a big surprise. I try not to do spoilers. When I read reviews with a bunch of spoilers, I don't bother to read the book. Ooh, okay. I'd much rather you read the book. But yes, exactly. That's the thing is I quite often get reviews on Amazon where there's spoilers in the middle of it, and it's in the reviews, which is the protocol is you're not supposed to talk to reviewers at all. They're entitled to have their say, and Amazon frown upon anyone authors reaching out to reviewers. But sometimes I really just want to drop a comment in there saying, really, I mean, you don't want to just take that one single sentence out that gives the entire plot away and the big twist in the middle. But unfortunately, I just hope that those reviews sort of sink down to the bottom and then nobody will find them. I'm pretty sure that most people just read the top few reviews and that's it. So I try and vote them down, except you can't vote reviews down anymore, I don't think. I'm pretty sure there isn't anything there anymore that lets you thumbs up or thumbs down. Mary, like Dina, I kept looking for more. Is it coming? Mary, again, there are threads there. It's probably not what you're expecting. You know what I'm like. It's not always obvious, but and Janita, hi Janita, hello. I prefer no spoilers, but if I love the author, I read the book. But if I love someone's writing, I will reread to in the future. Yes, so do I. I have a long set of favourite books that get constantly recycled through my reading list. Yeah, and yeah, even if the book's spoiled. Actually, you know, sometimes you get a spoiler that's a spoiler and gives away part of the plot, but at the same time, it makes you go, oh my God, I've got to read that now. Sometimes I do that with movies. Somebody will say, oh, well, you know, that character dies, or that character was a pirate, or that character, this is one that picks me up every time. That character, fell in love with that character in the movie, and I'm like, oh, I've got to watch it now. That'll hook me in every time. So, Ava, some people just like to spoil things for others. I don't know if they actually do, Ava. I'm pretty sure that readers aren't aware of the fact that they're spoiling the story. I think sometimes they just get so enthusiastic about the story that they've just, you know how it is on Monday morning, you rock up at work and you've got to tell someone about the movie that you saw the night before. Everything just spills out. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of readers do that with reviews too. They're just being super enthusiastic and just spilling it out there for everyone, you know, just being really enthusiastic. So I think sometimes they just don't think, or they're not aware that they're giving away the story for everyone else. And there's also a lot of reviewers, reader reviewers, who get very nervous and think that they're supposed to write this like official review, like you see in newspapers and things like that. And I think that worries them, and they feel like they've got to like regurgitate the whole plot, because that's how they do it in the newspapers and professional reviews, which isn't actually true. But as they're, you know, summarizing the plot, they end up giving away the spoilers, which is really unfortunate. But and Dina, I don't read reviews for your books because I'm going to read them anyway. True, yes. As a member of my street team, you do get to read all my books. So and I must admit that with other authors, when I'm looking for books to buy, I will read like the top couple of 5-star reviews, and then I'll go and read like the top 1-star reviews, so I can get like both perspectives. But I usually don't comb through the middle. I just want to get like the good stuff and the bad stuff, and if the bad stuff hits any sour notes for me, then I might look at the look inside feature and see, just have a quick read of the first few pages and see if the story's going to pick me up anyway. But on the other hand, I also have authors who are just automatic. I will, if it's their new book, I'm buying it. Doesn't matter what everyone says. And I have been burned that way too, because I'll buy the book regardless of what everyone says and then find out it's a real stinker. And so I'm wary from then on. It's a learning process, I guess, but spoilers in reviews really do bother me. It's like, well, that just took all the fun out of it. So Janita says, sometimes with new authors I have never read, if there is a spoiler in the review, it can make me buy the book. Yes, Janita, yes, just like what I was saying too. It's sometimes the spoiler gives you just enough information you think, oh, I've got to read that now. So off you go. So sometimes it does work that way. That is how I console myself when a reviewer puts up a spoiler review. It's just, well, maybe that'll make someone want to read the book. Anyway, let's get into, unless there's any more questions, if you've just arrived, please say hello in comments so I know that you're there, and so that everyone else knows that you're there. It's actually been interesting the last few weeks with the Facebook Live. There's been a little bit of interaction between all you guys as well, which is kind of nice. It's not like you're just talking at me. So we were going to get into the mailbag this week. I've had some kind of interesting emails, quite apart from all the frantic emails about not being able to get their copy of the Halloween story, which I got to the point where I couldn't answer everyone because there's so many coming in. I just had to send out that general, the system crashed, here's an alternative download. I don't seem to be having much luck with download links these days. It's just one of those things. I think, yeah, everything comes in threes. In my case, it's sort of like 12s or something. But anyway, quick check on comments. Dina, you are so much more relaxed. Oh, I could be way more relaxed if you really want me to be. But yes, I'm much more comfortable. I mean, that first couple of weeks were just awful. I've got used to seeing myself on the camera. And as you can tell by the relaxed and hair down mode, I am much more relaxed now, which is nice because now I can concentrate on talking with you guys instead of worrying about how do I look, you know, is everything okay? So, which is nice. I'm actually getting a lot of feedback from readers saying that they really appreciate these Facebook Lives, which it's kind of odd because for me, it doesn't feel all that much different. I'm still getting all the emails and everything I get from readers, but for me, it's because I'm not on the other side and I don't, all you get is just the emails from me and stuff like that. If you get, I know what it's like when I see other authors that are doing like videos and Facebook Live and PR and TV and media and all that sort of stuff. You sort of feel like you get to know them a little bit. And I think for you guys, it might be that way too. So particularly now I'm not being all stiff and misproper. I think it makes a difference. So everyone, a lot of the emails that I've been getting have been saying how much they enjoy it. So that seems to be a fairly good indication that I should keep doing these. It seems like everyone appreciates them. And no more comments from now. So, mailbag. There were a couple of emails that I sent out during the week, both of them to do with books that are coming up. One of them was about the different forms of blindness. I don't know if you remember seeing that one go through. And the other one was all the coloured photos from World War I. I got amazing amounts of email about those. It was really interesting. I don't always get lots of emails depending on what the email is that I send out, but those I really got a lot of replies. It was interesting. The one about blindness, I was I guess shocked to find out that I have more than a few clinically blind people, legally blind people on my email list, and they're like, yeah, I'm one of the people with a white cane. Which is really interesting. It's technology is astonishing. It's really great that these people can get access to the stories. I don't know what I would do if I was blind. I guess I would use the same technology, but if you were blind in an earlier age where there was not the technology to help you read and listen to stories, that would make life very interesting, especially for people like me who likes their stories. So hang on, got some copies. Janita, I love hearing you talk. Makes me feel like I know you a little and love your writing. It's a bonus when I read the books. I have a funny story about that, Janita. Apparently I do write just like I talk. You guys, you've been listening to me for a few weeks, so you can perhaps agree or not with that I actually write the way I talk, which means that my kids will never read my books because all they can hear is me talking to them. And of course, you know the sort of books that I write, they have some explicit scenes in them. So even my daughter just curls up her toes and says, no, I'm not having my mother explaining sex scenes to me, thank you very much. And I don't think she's ever read any of my books. Even my mum won't read my books if she knows that there's like heavy sex scenes in them. She will, she got me to write her a long list of all my book titles classified according to the degree of sex in them. And she picks the very mild ones that have got, you know, nearly nothing in them. So she feels kind of safe reading those. But yeah, all my kids, all my family say if they ever read my books that it sounds like I'm talking directly at them. It's my voice. So I think that's a good thing. But yes, Janita, I guess you get to hear my voice while you're reading the books from now on. Mary, that's a really, really good point. Mary said, this is much better than a book signing where you only get 90 seconds to talk to an author. Yes, I've been to those. They're painful. We went to, I'm not even going to say who it is, but it was a very big name author that I was so excited about. And we went to this signing and we had to line up, and the queue was incredibly long. And I mean, this is Canada where the lines are just simply not that big like you get down in the States. But it was a really, really long line. And we waited and we waited, which is not something I'm particularly good at. And as we got into the store, I mean, we're still waiting just to get into the store. When we got into the store, we had this store clerk come up and tell us, okay, you can't talk to them directly. You can only say hello. You cannot ask them to write anything special in your book. You do not hand them the book. They will not take gifts. And there was sort of like 3 or 4 other points. And basically we got to stand at the table, smile and say hello. They wrote their signature and that was it. Handed me this very expensive hardcover book. And that was it. We got shoved out of the way and the next person walked up. And it was kind of depressing. And I realized that if you're a really famous person and you get humongous numbers of people turn up, you can be forced to do that. But it just seems really clinical and mildly, I don't know, commercial, I guess is the word. So Mary, yes, you've made a very good point there. Doing these Facebook Lives, it just takes away all that. You get 90 seconds and that's it. I think with my famous author occasion, it was even less than that. It was maybe 30 seconds tops. I would have been better off just watching an interview or something at home. So, and you guys are talking to each other. That's great. Yes, Janita. All right, so back to the questions, and we were talking about the blindness email, and I got lots of emails about that one. The other one was the coloured photos from World War I. Did you see the coloured photos that I put out in the email? What did you think? Aren't they amazing when they're coloured? It just makes everything come to life so much more. You feel like you sort of understand and are a bit more immersed in history when you look at the coloured photos. Did anyone here click through and have a look on Google for like the Victorian photos that they've coloured? Some of those are just amazing. They make you feel like you've just, it's as close to time travel as you can get because it's a real photo of that time, but the colour just makes it come to life and feel very realistic. Whereas black and white seems to put a distance between people. So if you had a look at them, let me know and tell me what you think. Yes, Ava was, oh yeah, love the photos. So Janita, no problems, you'll catch up. There's always a review later and you can always email me directly too. So don't worry too much if you get lost in the technology. It can lag. I think it was last week I actually had to, oh, and there's a good point. Last week I got hung up. I think my internet connection cut out and then suddenly I was gone and I lost half my audience, like boom, they didn't come back. Now I had to jump over to a second live session like straight away. I think there was less than a minute's difference before I got up and running again. If I ever just cut out and disappear, unless I have said that's it for this week, that means I'm going to pop up somewhere else as soon as I can. So if you're ever in one of these live sessions and it just abruptly stops, go have a look on the page for another video. It'll be there somewhere as soon as I can get up and running again. It's another good reason why the live notifications are really useful, because as soon as I pop up on that second video, you'll get the link in your notifications. So if you haven't done it before now, that's probably a good reason to do it. And Dina, saw pics, they were terrific. Can't wait to see what you're going to do with the blind thing. Well, Dina, because you're part of the street team, you will get to find out a couple of weeks ahead of everyone else. But yeah, we're a little ways off yet. So, but not far. It's coming. Mary, I love the coloured photos. My mum's family was from Slovenia, and my great-grandma Yach always talked about Franz Joseph. Yes, Franz Ferdinand's father. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting. It's the start of World War I was based purely around the fact that Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of, oh God, I've gone blank. Anyway, he was assassinated, and because of all the royal families, intertwined family trees, and all the political alliances across Europe and the European Commonwealth countries, so all the colonies of England and France and Germany and stuff like that, suddenly everyone got pulled into this war. The whole world got pulled in because of all these political alliances, and that was just because one person got shot. I don't think the world could ever do that again. It was this perfect storm of political alliances and colonies and power blocks within Europe, and it just one match and poof, the whole thing took off. It's a fascinating part of history. If you like reading about history, you should read about just prior to the First World War. Very interesting. It's sort of like the very old style royal families and power blocks all got shifted, and World War I got rid of most of those. A lot of the old alliances disappeared, all the political structures disappeared, the map of Europe got completely rewritten, and it's sort of like out with the old and in with the new. It's a very interesting part of history. So let me see. Heather. Hi, Heather. Didn't realize you were there. Really weird seeing them and the differences. Yes, isn't it interesting, that one with Franz Ferdinand, the black and white and then the colour. I mean, all that's happened is that colour's been introduced to the photo, but it just makes it seem so much more real. It's very interesting. And Gina's having technical problems. Junita, the differences in the photos was surprising in their effect. Yeah, they really are. They make such an amazing difference. Dina, my dad was in World War II, and he has many photos he took, and yes, most are black and white, but are still fascinating. They're pictures from where they were to cannibals with their catch. Yes, it was a man. Oh my goodness. Wherever he was, the natives loved him. One even gave him an island. Sounds like he was in, I don't know, I want to say Papua New Guinea, somewhere down through Southeast Asia. There were some fairly wild parts of the world during World War II down there. I'm sure you've heard the stories about the Japanese who were, 20 years later, they didn't realize the war was over. They were still like controlling their one little island like they had been ordered to before, in the middle of the war. Yes, Dina, Pacific Theatre, yeah, so Southeast Asia. Okay, and back to, again, the photos. I got an email from Mandy who said, I would love to know the story of the bearded man in the nurse's white dress. I don't know how good your memory is, but do you remember the photo of the nurses? If you have a look on the right-hand side of the photo, there is a man there that looks like, at first glance, that he's in a nurse's uniform, and he's got a full beard too, and he's got his arms crossed. I actually think what he is he may have been a surgeon or maybe a cook or something like that. He's actually wearing just a white shirt rolled up with the sleeves rolled up and a half apron. And it's a white apron, so unfortunately it looks like he's wearing a dress because you can't see his pants underneath. You can just see his boots. But so it was kind of, I laughed because as soon as she said that, I thought, oh, yes. I went back and had a look at the photo, and if you're just looking very quickly, it can look like he's actually wearing a nurse's uniform, but I don't think he is. I think it's a white shirt and an apron. So also in the mailbag, I got one from Solange. Sorry, I knew I was going to mispronounce that one. In Belgium. It's really cool. I had no idea that I had so many international readers, but I think Solange is the first one in Belgium that I'm personally aware of because she emailed me. See, this is one of the things about emailing me. I may end up just putting a story in Belgium because I know that she happens to be there, so I'll be thinking of her as I said it there. So anyway, her father was in the Battle of Meissen, which is, it was a huge battle. It was, I think it was in 1917, and it lasted about 5 days, and there was 360,000 soldiers died. It was a horrible one. Anyway, her father, she emailed me about it in response to the photos, and she was saying her father died. I'm not quite sure. That must mean that she's quite elderly herself because I can't quite figure out the dates there, but maybe she'll tell me. But anyway, her father must have been extremely young in the First World War, and that's one of the things I learned when I was doing the research. There were a huge number of underage boys who signed up and lied about their age because they wanted to do their bit to defend their country. More in World War I than there was in World War II. I think World War II they were starting to get better documentation and identity papers and things like that. But in World War I, if you rocked up and swore that you were over 18 and you had like a brother or a father that said, yep, it's okay, he's over 18, they just signed you up. One of the youngest people to fight in World War I was only 12 years old. And that's really hard to imagine because at 12, unless he matured really early or something like that, it's hard to kind of hide how young you are. But they let him fight. So it's like I said, it was World War I was this odd mix of old traditions and old ways of thinking and modern technology and modern ways of dealing with the world. It was a real turning point. So yes, and I also got in the mailbag, hang on, let me just check comments. I'm trying to remember to check comments. Mary, my grandpa served throughout World War II on the staff of a general involved in the African campaign against Rommel. No photos were allowed. Yeah, they were kind of sensitive about photos in the more far-flung places because the enemy, if they got hold of the photos, could figure out strategies and strengths and numbers and things like that. So they got very sensitive about that. So anyway, also in the mailbag from Jenny, she was referring to, I can't remember if it was an email or a Facebook Live, or it may have been both. Actually, I think it was Facebook Live because I was talking about, my tea's cold. Anyway, she was talking about, I was talking about my new tarot cards. Do you remember I got the new tarot card set? Yeah. Anyway, she was asking, she said, what are the tarot readings that you were talking about? And so I thought, just to do it quickly, I was talking about, there was a couple of tarot readings I did for readers, and that I had talked about it on the blog a little bit. So I thought just quickly, because I really have this bad habit of pushing my luck, I'm going to put some links in and see if I can crash the system again. So here we go. I'm going to put in, this is a blog post, and I'm still live. This is a blog post to the link to a blog post that was a tarot reading that I did for readers. Now, it's a couple of years old now, but it just shows you I was having a little bit of fun with it at the time. I also did a rather more serious post. It was actually a two-part post, so there was two parts of it. And here is the first part, and I'm going to cross my fingers. Still here. Maybe I've like broken the run. That'd be good. So Mary says, tarot cards are beautiful. Where'd you get them? I got them from Amazon. Let me just show you the book. That's the book that comes with them. I'm just trying to not have a glow on there. There. We have a standard. In fact, if you can see the purple scarf sitting next to my inbox there, because you're supposed to keep tarots kept in a natural container, I keep my old set wrapped in silk, which is there. That's a silk scarf, and that's the old Rider-Waite deck. Actually, I think it's Rider-Waite Smith, because now they've decided that they're going to acknowledge the artist who actually drew them. And of course, she was female. How interesting. It was a female that they forgot to acknowledge. I'm getting political there. Anyway, one of the things that they say about tarot cards is that you should look for a set that talks to you, that appeals to your sensibilities, your tastes and preferences. So I've been playing around with tarot cards for a number of years, and I've just used the standard deck for the longest time. And I'll look at tarot cards on Amazon and stuff like that, and nothing really did it for me. But as I was saying the other day when I was talking about them, I'm quite sure I'm not going to be able to come up with this very quickly. Anyway, the Ace of Swords, which is a standard deck card tarot deck, it's also in standard cards too. But the Ace of Swords in this deck looks exactly like the Lady of the Lake holding up Excalibur in the water. I'm sure you know the image that I'm talking about. It's everywhere. Anyway, as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh, this is my deck. And I went through it, and there's lots of images in here that are very, it's all Celtic mythology and Druid and Wicca, lots of symbolism. And I'm just trying to find one that you'd recognize very quickly. But anyway, there were lots of images and symbols in this that appealed to me because it's all Celtic. And if you are reading my Once and Future Hearts series at all, you'll know how much I like my King Arthur. So, of course, seeing the Lady of the Lake as one of the cards was kind of like, well, that's it. That's my deck. So, Mary, your answer is I found it on Amazon. I actually got the deck and the instruction book from Amazon, but they also have an app you can download on your phone, and it'll just walk you through the cards. And I'm actually in the process at the moment of getting to know the cards. I don't know if you know this one, but you basically, this is what I do, is I put a card in a holder for the day, and this is today's card, and it's in front of me. So when I'm writing or working on it, every now and again I'll glance at the card, and you just let it soak into your subconscious, and you're picking up the symbols and the images, and it works and makes connections so that when you come to interpret the cards later on, you have a very personal connection with the card. So gradually you just work your way through the deck and get to know them that way. But I find tarot cards are really useful they're great if I need a character very quickly. I'll just grab a card and I decide beforehand what the card's going to be. Is it going to be their internal characteristic, their main drive, their history, whatever aspect it is that I'm looking for, or it's just the general personality even. Pull a card very quickly, interpret it in terms of character, and quite often what I get is not what I was expecting. It's nothing to do with what I would normally choose if I wasn't picking a tarot card, which is great because that bumps me out of habits, of plotting habits and character habits and things like that. So the tarot are very useful in that respect. They're also really good for really short answers. So if you're trying to decide between, well, not just yes and no answers, but if you're trying to decide something that needs a bit of interpretation and thought, pulling a tarot card will quite often give you a different perspective. It's like talking it out with a friend. And as you can imagine, because I'm quite often just sitting at my computer, I don't have friends on tap to go talk in the kitchen with. So the tarot cards really give me, they jolt me out of habits of thought. So they're really useful in that respect. If you read the second of the links that I put in comments that has the tarot links, you'll find that I have a somewhat checkered history with tarot cards. So you might, it's the second one, the second post is actually very biographical, so a lot about me in relationship to the cards. Dina, card stores, yes. Ones that sell game cards should have them, but yes, Amazon is also very... Dina, I love the way you say here. Okay. All right. So Janita, I found these on Amazon. I really like them too. I keep them in pull string bags. So Janita has put a link in comments that's got another set of tarot cards. Hers look like Mary Magdalene, so that's a different sort of set. There are tarot card sets for anyone. As I was saying the other day, there's quite possibly, you know, a dolphin one and a fairy one, and whatever your thing is, I'm quite sure there is a tarot set out there that will suit you. And that's what they say, is to go out and find a set that suits you. I just happened to trip over this Jewed set, and because of the Ace of Swords, which was the Lady of the Lake, it was kind of like, well, that's it, that's mine. I'm not even going to look any further. And Dina's back again. Well, thank you for persisting, Dina, despite your troubles there. So do we have any more questions at the moment? Again, if you've just arrived, let me know in comments that you're here, so because I have no way of knowing if you're here or not unless you stick up your hand and tell me. So I have one more email that I got in response to the emails that I put out during the week. This was also in response to the coloured photos. And this one, I'm not going to say who it's from because, well, you'll understand why when I finish reading it. I guess we will have to agree to disagree on the retouching of all the photos. I happen to think it is wrong as they take away from the reality of what it was like when originally taken. Same with old movies. Let them be as they were meant to be. Just because people feel the need to make things more palatable for the modern era doesn't mean it is better. If someone has to colorize something to make it more believable, then, well, it's just sad. But that is just my opinion, and I know everyone has their own opinion. This would be a very boring world if we all shared the same opinion. And yes, I absolutely agree. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. We all agree on that one, I think. I wanted to mention it because I know there are more than one person out there who probably thinks that messing with things from history like that is somehow wrong. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit and point out that history is not really accessible for a lot of people. I'm a history nut, so I can read history books and I can understand the historical times so that when people behave oddly in those times, I can sort of understand their motivation and where they're coming from and why they may behave that way and why they make the decisions that they do. But that's because I do a lot of reading of history. Now, if you read all my historical romance novels, it's quite possible that you've also got an appreciation for history. And that makes it a lot easier for you to understand and interpret, say, a black and white photograph. And when you look at it, you can sort of colour it and fill it in for yourself because you've got that background and that knowledge there. But you and I, history readers, we are a small minority in the world. So for a lot of people, history is just purely inaccessible. They don't understand it. They don't get it. They don't understand why people behave that way. If you said to someone that the First World War was started because one person was assassinated, they wouldn't get it. It just wouldn't make sense to them, because all those alliances and the old royal houses and how everyone was related to everyone else, so it was like there's royal dominoes tripping over. They wouldn't get that because there is no global equivalent these days. So for people like that, when you colorize a historical photograph, and just by the way, I also have to mention this too, when they color those photographs, they're not ruining the original. They're taking a copy and they're colorizing that. So the historical original source photograph is still preserved. But when they do that, because I mean, you saw for yourself this week, when the photographs are colored, it makes it more accessible, it makes it more real for people. So it is a way of bridging that gap for people so that they get to, I'm quite sure that people look at those coloured photographs and go, oh wow, well it looks just like it does these days, which it did. It's just that when we look at black and white photographs, we forget that, yes, the grass was green and all that sort of stuff. And people were quite ordinary people back then. And they had personal lives and they had problems and they had mums and dads that they didn't get along with and all the stuff that we deal with on an everyday basis. So did all those people in history. And so those colour photographs make them seem human and give them a human face. And so I think, yes, we need to preserve history, but I think also the colour photographs serve to make history more accessible, and I think that's a good thing. The other aspect of that I also wanted to touch on, which is it's kind of interesting from my perspective. I'm an Australian living in Canada, writing for a primarily US audience, and I write in US English because a lot of US readers are uncomfortable reading English that's English or Canadian or Australian. It's the same accessibility thing. I would much rather people enjoy the story and not trip over anything while they're reading it. So I write in US English, and every now and again my grammar will trip me up because I have you lovely people emailing me and saying, hey, there's a typo here. By the way, I love typos. I love you reporting typos. Just for the record, let's make it official. If you find a typo, feel free to tell me about it, because I will correct it next time I'm reviewing the book, and then that's gone forever. It's kind of, I preserve the changes as I go along. So for that reason, this accessibility thing, that's why I think it's a very long explanation, but there's always two sides to everything. So I thought it was interesting. I was actually very pleased to get someone disagreeing with me, because I'm not always right. I know I'm not always right, but it was nice to have that perspective in, because it made me think about, well, is that right, or is there a different way of looking at it? And that's what I came up with. There is a different way of looking at it, and that's what I think the colour photographs do. They're not just a fad thing. They actually serve a purpose that's fundamentally very good. So let me look at comments. Mary has a set of cards called Healing with the Fairies. I knew there was a fairy one out there. Bought them because one of the artists was Nancy Chen Erickson. She was an artist I got to know through a craft show. That's very cool. You actually got to know, yes, you got to know the artist that designed the tarot cards. That's very interesting. They're not traditional cards, but seem to fall in line with what you're talking about. Well, yes, it's, if it appeals to you, then that's a card that a deck that you can get to know and use. And it ends up with very personal interpretations. So when you do a reading for someone, you're interpreting through your biases and preferences and so on and so forth. Dina said, I would have loved to. I'm going to reinterpret you, Dina, because I think you got a couple of words in there that are extra. I would have loved to have the colours, I think, that the natives wore in my dad's photos. Quite a few were native girls with flowers in their hair and around their necks, as well as their wraparound clothes. So yeah, and some of the clothing in Southeast Asia is very, very colourful. So it would have been, and it makes a difference, even just seeing skin tones and stuff like that. Yeah, so it does make a difference there. And we're almost, oh my goodness, at 3 o'clock. So 3 o'clock my time. Did everyone set their clocks forward, back? Hang on. Fall back, yes. So did everyone set their clocks back and get an extra hour sleep on Sunday? We didn't. We forgot. We got up an hour early. But that was okay. That ended up being a good thing for us, because then I could get to make things for an extra hour. So it was very nice. It was a bonus. But I went to bed very early last night. So before I wrap up, does anyone have any questions? Anything else that they care to add? I'll just give it a few seconds to come through because of that extra special delay. Otherwise, I may wrap up. Okay, no, it doesn't. Looks like you're all sitting back going, oh please, let's go. All right, don't forget, if you have any questions at all, please email me, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you here next week, and I'm not sure what I'll be talking about then. Depends, I guess, on what I get in the email, in the mailbag. But I think I'm actually going to tie my hair back next week, because this is driving me a little bit crazy at the moment. So, but you can see there is a lot of it there. All right. So, as there is, yes, thank you, Dina. It has been good. I'll see you all next Monday. Email in the meantime. Enjoy the books in the meantime. Enjoy, well, Time and Remembrance will be out before we see each other next week. So enjoy that in the meantime, and have a great week. Bye.